And what has become of him? Pele's real name is Edson Arantes do Nascimento. He was born in his father, Ramos do Nascimento, nicknamed Dondinho, was a professional football player, but after a serious injury, he had to end his sports career. The boy was named after the inventor Thomas Edison because shortly before his birth, the city had just received electric lighting. The young parents were so impressed by this that they decided to honor the inventor in this way. However, they accidentally dropped a letter from the name, and in the birth certificate, through a mistake, it was still written as Edison. The family moved around a lot in search of any kind of income until finally, in 1944, they settled in Boru. In the family, Edson was the eldest child. He had a younger brother, Jair, and a sister, Maria Elcha. Football in Brazil is an inseparable part of everyday life, so it is no surprise that from an early age Edson and his younger brother Jair were playing with a ball. The family lived in poverty, but street football didn't require much. The future king of football's first ball was a bunch of socks tied together. Edson's first coach was his father. As a child, the boy got the nickname Pele. There are several versions of its origin, since this word has no known meaning in Portuguese. In his autobiography, Pele wrote that most likely it came from the distorted nickname of a goalkeeper named Bill, who once played on the same team as his father. At the age of 7, Edson began working as a shoeshiner in the wealthy districts of the city at the train station and at the stadium on match days. At the age of 8, he enrolled in school, where he quickly gained a reputation as a troublemaker, skipped many classes, and was held back several times. Dreaming of playing for a football club like his father, Pele decided to organize his own team with boys from neighboring streets. They bought a ball in exchange for football stickers, got uniforms with money from selling stolen peanuts, and played matches right next to residential houses. This was how the first football team in Pele's life appeared, called Sedeta Setembro, 7th of September. When Pele was 9 years old, Brazil hosted the World Cup. The host nation's team lost in the final, and on that day he saw his father's tears for the first time. Trying to console him, the boy promised that he would win the World Cup for him. It is widely known that Pele had his first sexual experience at the age of 14 with a man much older than him. This rumor was spread by Maradona, who envied the Brazilians' popularity in Argentina. Pele himself wrote in his author with a prostitute. In 1954, Pele was accepted into a local youth team called Baquinho, where he earned 4,500 reais. An incredible stroke of luck came when the team was coached by Valdemar de Brito, a former player of the Brazilian national team. He saw Pele's talent and helped him develop his scoring abilities and ball control technique. And in 1956, the coach arranged for the teenager to join the professional club Santos in São Paulo. Since Pele was not yet 16 years old at that time, he signed a semi-legal contract. The contract with the club was signed in June 1956, and on September 7th, Pele made his first appearance in an official match for the club against Corinthians, scoring a goal. Later, the Corinthians goalkeeper even made a business card, proudly calling himself the goalkeeper who conceded Pele's first goal. At that time, Santos was not among the most prestigious clubs, though many of its players were often called up to the national team. It was Pele who would bring Santos fame and titles, but the player himself also owed a great deal to the club. He was warmly welcomed there by both coaches and teammates, many of whom were almost twice his age. They did their best to support and protect him on the pitch, shielding the young star from the harsh challenges of rival players who showed no mercy despite his age. Following his father's example and realizing that a football career could end at any moment, Pele began saving his earnings. He sent most of his salary to his father, who managed the money and invested it in buying a house, so the family could finally move out of rented accommodation. At 16 years old, Pele re-signed a fully legal contract with the club, worth 1 million reais per month, equivalent to about 200,000 US today. That same year, at just 16, Pele made his debut for the Brazil national team in a match against Argentina. A chance meeting in an elevator of a high-rise building in São Paulo in 2010 reminded Pele and his partner of their former feelings, and they have been together ever since. Around the same time, Pele released a song dedicated to the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, titled Hope. The footballer has a serious passion for music, and for his fans, he even released a couple of records. Most of the songs are about football and, of course, love. On the eve of 2018, Pele visited Moscow, were the draw for the upcoming. The legendary footballer could only move in a wheelchair, having undergone complex joint surgery. On October 23, 2020, the King of Football celebrated his 80th birthday. In recent years, Pele has faced health problems. In February 2020, reports stated that he could no longer move without assistance. For this reason, Pele prefers to avoid public appearances. Nevertheless, he does not intend to give up. His schedule still includes photo sessions and active charity work. In addition, he maintains an active presence on Instagram and Twitter. On November 25th, the legendary footballer Diego Maradona passed away. Friend, and hoping that one day they would play together in heaven. Although Pele's career as a player ended long ago, he has never left football. He is an honored guest at all major tournaments and works tirelessly to introduce children around the world to the beautiful game, as he calls football. He has also frequently served as a sports commentator and TV presenter. Pele has been involved in over 55 film projects to films, played himself in 57 movies, and appeared as an actual actor in 14 others. A wide variety of products, from Sony tape recorders to beach houses in Garugem, near Sao Paulo, from Pan American Airlines to Drops Candies. He has also appeared in campaigns for Louis Vuitton alongside Zidane and Maradona. The only taboos for him have been alcohol and tobacco advertising. Pele's current net worth is estimated at $100 million, with advertising income alone accounting for $15 million per year. For over 40 years, the football legend owned a house in Hampton, USA, which he purchased for just $156,000. During that time, Pele expanded the property, adding a second floor, a swimming pool, and a path to the beach. In 2018, fortunately, Pele's childhood home in Buru did not survive. It was destroyed by arsonists. Today, the King of Football lives in Sao Paulo with his wife. His first car was a three-wheeled vehicle, gifted by the Brazilian government after his victory in the 1958 World Cup, built as part of the development of Brazil's auto industry, Roma Seta. 2 years later, he bought a blue Mercedes 2OSB sedan. It was later replaced by a Mercedes-Benz 114, gifted by the president of Bayern Munich, who had attempted to recruit the star player, in honor of Pele's 1,000th career goal. The gift matched the same color scheme, featured a powerful engine, and even bore the victory number W8000, but even this Mercedes was not the last in his life, and several more new cars of this brand found a place in his garage. Besides German cars, Pele also drove a more affordable Vauxhall Zafira. In 2014, he became an ambassador for Volkswagen, although it is unclear whether he ever drove one of their cars in real life. Pele, like a magician, captivated the entire world. His name is synonymous with football, but the influence of the legendary Brazilian extends far beyond sport. Pele has become a beacon for millions worldwide, a stimulus to grow, and an example of dedication to one's craft. Do you agree that Pele was the greatest player of the 20th century? If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to the channel to not miss more interesting content. The young footballer came on as a substitute when the score was 0-1 and managed to equalize. In the end, however, Brazil lost 12. Still, for the young player, the debut was an unquestionable success. His first season with Santos transformed him, he grew stronger and gained muscle mass. The hard work paid off. Pele was called up to play for the national team at the World Cup in Sweden. He arrived at the tournament not fully fit, still recovering from an injury, so his World Cup debut came only in the last group stage match against the Soviet Union. On June 15, 1958, Pele became the youngest player ever to appear in a World Cup match, a record that stood for 24 years. The next game was the quarterfinal against Wales, where Pele scored the decisive goal, writing his name into the record books as the youngest player ever to score in a World Cup. In the semifinal against France, Pele shone once again. He delivered a brilliant hat-trick, scoring 3 goals in one match, and instantly became a world-famous star. The final match against the host nation, Sweden, was broadcast worldwide for the first time in history. Years later, Pele admitted that, as he listened to the national anthem before kickoff, he thought of his father and remembered the promise he had once made to win the World Cup for him. In that match, the young Pele once again shone. Brazil won 52, and at just 17 years old, Pele entered history as the youngest World Cup champion, a record that still stands today. In 1959, Pele set another football milestone by scoring 126 goals in 100 matches for Santos. The club's owners capitalized on his fame by organizing games in different countries, and everywhere he went, matches featuring Pele filled stadiums to capacity. The fame that fell upon the 18-year-old footballer did not spoil him in the slightest. He always respected his opponents and the fans, remained simple, friendly, and kind in everyday life, and carried himself with nobility on the football pitch, where year after year he continued to perform miracles. He would send the ball into the net from completely unexpected positions, even when surrounded by several defenders. It seemed as if he could do anything he wanted on the field. Every one of his matches turned into a thrilling spectacle. Many tried to uncover Pele's secret. His physical abilities were often described as nearly perfect. Despite being just over 170 centimeters tall, he could leap 2 meters into the air and run 100 meters in 11 seconds. But beyond his athleticism, the great player also possessed a brilliant footballing intelligence. Like a computer, Pele instantly tracked the slightest movements of the ball and the players, which allowed him to always be in the right place, either to continue an attack or to score a goal. Throughout his career, he remained a consummate professional, strictly following discipline, maintaining his regimen, and practicing moves and shots even outside regular training sessions. The French press first crowned him the king of football in 1961 during Santos' Tour of France, and the president of Brazil issued a special decree declaring Pele a national treasure to prevent him from leaving for a European club. In 1962, the Brazilian national team successfully defended its title at the World Cup in Chile, making Pele a two-time world champion. However, he suffered an injury in the very first match and did not return to the field for the rest of the tournament. In 1965, his first autobiography, I Am Pele, was published. The book inspired thousands of Brazilian boys to learn to read just so they could understand it. In recognition of his contribution to public education, the legend of sport was awarded a medal by the Ministry of Education. At the next World Cup in 1966, Pele was once again injured, and Brazil was eliminated during the group stage. That same year, the footballer married Rosemary dos Reis Cholbe. The couple lived together for 16 years and had 3 children, 2 daughters, Clea and Jennifer, and a son, Edinho, who followed in his father's footsteps and became a goalkeeper for Santos. However, Edinho was later imprisoned for large-scale drug trafficking and money laundering. In February 1969, while on an international tour, Santos played a friendly match in Nigeria, a country then in the midst of a civil war. Yet, for the sake of the match featuring Pele, a special two-day ceasefire was declared. By November of that same year, at the Moroccan stadium, Pele scored his 1,000th career goal. The event turned into a nationwide celebration. The Brazilian ministry even issued a special postage that was sold at an auction in São Paulo for $20 to $1,400. To this day, Santos annually celebrates November 19th as Pele Day. Brazil's national team went on to win the World Cup for the 3rd time, and Pele became the only player in history to be crowned world champion 3 times. In the following year, 1971, not yet 31 years old, Pele decided to retire from the Brazilian national team. The entire country was shaken, and millions still held on to the hope that he might change his mind. But on July 18th, Pele truly made his final appearance for the Brazilian national team in a friendly match against Yugoslavia. He explained to his nation that he wished to retire at the height of his glory, rather than linger on as a football monument that had outlived itself. For Brazil, Pele played 92 matches, scoring 77 goals. He remains the all-time top scorer in the history of the national team. In 1972, the footballer signed a contract with a coffee-producing company, giving rise to the famous brand Café Pele. The athlete took part in large-scale promotional campaigns for the drink. Thanks to its affordable price, the brand quickly entered the global market, and export revenues brought Pele significant earnings. Back home in Santos, Pele continued to play until 1974. Over 19 years with the club, he appeared in 1,116 matches, scoring 1,091 goals. With Santos, he won the São Paulo State Championship 11 times, the Brazilian Cup 6 times, as well as the Copa Libertadores and the Intercontinental Cup twice each. Remarkably, on 5 occasions, Pele even stepped into goal when the goalkeeper could not continue, as substitutions were not allowed at the time, and he did not concede a single goal. In 1975, Pele joined the New York Cosmos. At that time, soccer European football was just beginning to develop in the United States, and star players were being invited to attract audience interest. Before moving to the U.S., Pele had acquired substantial property in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and other Brazilian cities. He owned shops, residential buildings, land, a dairy company, a freight and transport business, an import-export office, and even a radio station. Not all of his business ventures were successful, and overall, Pele owed the bank more than $1 million. The Cosmos, however, offered him a huge salary, $1.4 million per year. By signing with the American club, Pele became the highest-paid athlete in the world at the time. For 3 consecutive years, the Cosmos, with Pele, became champions of the North American Soccer League. The name of the king of football truly contributed to popularizing soccer in the U.S. According to statistics, during Pele's time in America, attendance at matches increased tenfold, and so many players wanted to swap jerseys with him that the club decided to give each opposing player a shirt with his number. In 1977, Pele decided to retire from football permanently. For his farewell match, he invited Santos to New York. On October 1, despite pouring rain, 76,646 spectators filled the stands of the New York Stadium. Pele played one half for the Cosmos and the second half for Santos. In the first half, the Brazilians managed to score, but Pele sealed his career with a spectacular free-kick goal, his 1,281st in 1,363 matches. During his career, the footballer visited 88 countries, and over 90 songs have been written about him worldwide. In 1976, Pepsi-Cola established the Pele Award, worth $10,000, given annually to the best player of the year in the US or Canada. Immediately after retiring, Pele decided to make up for the knowledge he had missed. He first completed high school, then graduated from the university economics faculty. Though the relationship was short-lived, in 1981, the war drama Victory was released, featuring Pele alongside Sylvester Stallone and Michael Caine. HERES The English translation of your sentence. The film tells the story of a World War II prisoner of war camp, where a strong football team is formed. Pele was not only an actor, but also the choreographer of the football stunts. He demonstrated, in particular, his signature move, the bicycle kick. During filming, Stallone suffered numerous injuries, including a rib fracture. While trying to take the ball from Pele, he broke another rib and a finger. After filming, he remarked that playing football is harder than boxing in Rocky. In honor of Pele's 50th birthday in 1990, a match was held in Milan between the Brazilian national team and a World She. That was the first time Pele ever wore the captain's armband. In 1992, Pele was appointed an ambassador for ecology and the environment, and in 1994, a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador, promoting a healthy lifestyle. In the same year, Pele married again, this time to psychologist and singer Sri Lemos Sixas. They had twins, Joshua and Celeste. However, the marriage faltered after 14 years, as it became known that Pele often cheated on his wife. He also has 2 illegitimate daughters from different women, Sandra Orantes do Nascimento and Flavia Cristina Cruz da Carvalho. In 1995, Pele was appointed Minister of Sports of Brazil, a position he held for 3 years. During his tenure, he successfully promoted a law that expanded players' rights in their relationships with clubs. The nation's love for the football legend was so immense that, in 1995, a man from Rwanda traveled to Brazil in the hold of an American cargo ship. He walked on foot to Pele to ask him to help reconcile two warring peoples in his country. In 1999, the magazine France Football awarded Pele the title of Player of the Century. In addition, the International Olympic Committee recognized him as the greatest athlete of the century, even though he never participated in the Olympic Games. In 2000, FIFA named Pele the best footballer of the 20th century. The following year was less pleasant. Pele was involved in a corruption scandal in which $700,000 was stolen from UNICEF. From 2006 to 2008, Pele was part of the Santos coaching staff, but with limited success. In 2010, he revived his former club, the New York Cosmos, which had been disbanded after his departure. By 2013, Brazil was preparing to host the 2014 World Cup.